6-minute stretching. This is a series that we're super excited to roll out, so strap yourselves in. Today we're going to take you through an epic stretching routine that you can do in as little as 6 minutes. We're also going to talk about why these stretches apply to your squat, how they work, the function of them, and we're going to answer a whole bunch of great questions that have come in from the tribe on YouTube. I've got the Kings here, all that and more coming up right after this.
We are the gym that teaches people how to move instead of just exercise, because we believe that health is about performance, not just body image.
Hey everyone, in case we haven't met, my name's Rad Burmeister, that's my brother Yanni Burmeister. We're the co-founders of Unity Gym and the co-creators of the UMS, the Unified Movement System, where we teach you how to nourish and move instead of diet and exercise. And of course, we've got our good friend Phil White over there. He's our resident physiotherapist.
Dr. Phil.
Dr. Phil, that's right. And we're here to take you through, well, at least the first part of an awesome 6-minute stretching routine that we're going to be releasing at the end of this week specifically for the squat, for how to get better at squatting. We get asked this question all the time. And today we're going to take you out on the gym floor and show you a couple of those exercises where if you do this daily, guaranteed your squat is going to improve.
Yeah, and I want to just give some background real quick before we dive too much into this. Before I do that, how are you doing, Phil?
Very well. I just had a nice weekend away at a beach volleyball camp, massaging by the beach. It was bloody delightful.
Yeah,
so,
and your spunky haircut inspired me to get my own spunky haircut.
I'm like, seriously, you guys are looking top
Yanni's actually
notch.
just had a nice haircut underneath that hat, but he just,
I don't. Mine's pretty simple. I don't do much. I do it in the shower, quick razor. You guys are looking top notch. I feel a little bit underwhelming here. Look, yesterday we had an epic day in Unity Gym. We had 3 online tribe members visit the gym, 1 for a treatment with Phil and a couple to train with us who were in town from all over Australia. And I got to give some credit where credit's due. I had a really great conversation with Kai from Noosa, who's he's a kite surfer, and he trains high-level, elite-level kite surfers, and he's got a little bit to do with Olympic athletes as well. And we had a really good talk about our online programming, and he sort of talked about the concept of us simplifying it a little bit more to break down the entry of barrier. And I got really excited, had a sleepless night, so thanks for that, Kai. I was thinking about your night. But we have, off the back of that, created some cracking routines that you can do in as little as 6 minutes, and we're going to do a series on these, and I think that this is going to be really valuable for some people. You excited?
I'm excited.
So should we go out on the gym floor and demonstrate the first 2 exercises from this epic? So they're going to be 6 movements in 6 minutes, and it's really a routine that you can take to the moon and back. It's going to be pretty awesome. The first one is on squats, so we'll take you out and demonstrate the first 2 of those 6 movements today and why they're so good.
All right, so I've got the mic and I'm also going to be demonstrating. So there's going to be a lot of huffing and puffing here. So what we're going to do, we're going to demonstrate a couple of movements. I'm going to show some more advanced ones and some beginner ones so that you guys can see what you guys can do to help improve your squat. The first one we're going to do is called the Ostrich walk. And the Ostrich walk, I'll just demonstrate a couple of them first. So I like to do a couple of bounces like this when I warm up, but once I'm warmed up, I like to just do 1 step for 1 bounce. And I'll show you what I'm doing. I'll break it down for you now. So the idea is what I'm doing, I'm stepping just so that my heel goes in line with the toe. So it's not a very big step. And then what I'm doing is literally just dynamically bouncing down into the stretch and then back up. So I'm basically pulling myself down into the stretch and then just letting my stretch shortening cycle of the muscle bounce me out of the bottom like this. So I'm not actually pulling up there, I'm pulling down, and then when I come up, I just step, pull down, and I just let my hands hit the ground there. So for somebody that's not as flexible as me, it might look more like this. Okay, and this is something that if you've got a history of back problems, you don't want to go straight into. You want to go and see a physiotherapist or a chiropractor and check out whether this is going to be a problem, because this can definitely cause problems, especially in your lumbar vertebra if you've got a history of herniated discs or bulging discs or anything like that. Anything that where forward flexion of the spine can cause pain, then this is a no-go for you. You want to get checked out before you do that.
Demonstrate what it might look like as a
Yeah, look, I mean, what I'd be doing if you had back problems is I'd be focusing on keeping a neutral spine and just coming down like this. That's what I'd be doing. Phil, what would you say?
Yeah, I think like one thing to keep in mind is if you've had a history of it, then sure, you might be at more risk, and everyone's going to be in a different part of their journey of rehab, but like flexion shouldn't be something to steer clear of long term, but it's all about making sure you know where you're at and you don't rush back into things. So I think everyone's maybe a bit too precious with their spine, like in that they think it's this fragile thing, which I think that's something that we really want to try and move past. So I think certainly start by figuring out what's like if you've got back problems, especially if you're getting any tingling, numbness, anything down into the legs, and if you haven't had that looked at, go get that looked at. But if you have a history of it, work with your physio or your physical therapist in America and figure out how to get back to doing bending, because it should be a perfectly safe
thing to do,
regular movement for your spine. The things to just keep in mind is that at the moment, Rad is doing quite fast movements where he's really bouncing off the end. If you're just starting out and getting back into forward bending, then obviously you're not going to start from there. And there's a whole series of progressions from lying on the ground and tucking your knees towards your chest that you can start with before you get to something like that. So don't rush into this sort of stuff, but flexion shouldn't be an issue long term.
Awesome, thanks Phil. So that said, if you are capable of doing this, then what you're looking for is put the weight over the front leg. Okay, so the weight is in the front leg, both knees are straight, all the stretch is coming in the front leg, and I'm just creating dynamic flexibility through my hamstrings. This is such a good thing to help warm you up for a squat and get you ready for your squat routine. And one of the main reasons why is because one of the big things that causes rounding in the lower back at the bottom range of a squat is tight hamstrings. So if your hamstrings are tight and with a neutral spine, if you can only go to here, then that same tightness as you squat down and the femur comes up here, what that's going to do is it's going to pull you down into this rounded position in the bottom of the squat. So having flexible hamstrings is a really, really important part of your squat. Now, the next one that we're going to do is called test the water. For some of you, our long-time viewers that you've seen me do this before, this is by far one of my favorite ways to increase all lower body flexibility, all of the major components. And I'll just demonstrate it, then I'll explain why, and then I'll show some regressions. So there's only 3 steps to this. And the first thing you want to think of is you want to be relatively stepping on the same line. So if I go down this jagged line here where these tiles are connecting, so that's the line that I'm going to be standing on. I'm going to start in a squat. From here, I'm going to step to the side and go to a Cossack squat. Then I'm going to step on the same line into a cross stance, and I'm still facing that way. And then I'm going to rotate back into a squat and just hit my full depth in a squat. So then I'll step to the side into a Cossack squat. So you see I rotate into that. That actually helps to create more stretch in the adductors on this leg. Then I'm going to step to the side into the cross stance facing this way. And then I'm going to rotate into the squat, okay? So the reason why this is such a good thing for the squat, there's a couple of reasons. Number one, you move in and out of a squat dynamically. So you come in and out of a squat, which is really, really good for you. Number two is that as you come out of the squat here, it forces you to put some load into this one leg and hold a real loaded stretch on that one leg. Number three is vasoconstriction. So whilst I stay down, if I don't come up, I get what's called vasoconstriction, which means because my muscles are working under load, there's a lot of contractions going on in my lower body and there's no relaxation phase or very little, the vessels in my lower body get constricted and it makes it harder for the blood to pump, it makes it harder for the heart to pump blood into my lower extremities. And then what happens is when you come up, you get vasodilation and everything relaxes and the heart pumps blood into the lower body. So you get increased circulation in your lower body, especially in this position here. In this position here, there's a lot of constriction going on, okay? My vessels are very constricted. It's very hard for my heart to pump blood down into my legs in this position. And then when I spin out of it, you get a lot of increased blood circulation here, okay? So, and then the other one is that the Cossack squat itself, this position here, is really, really good for creating flexibility in the adductors and the hamstrings, okay? And a lot of people do the Cossack squat like this, and which is really good. It's a great way to do the Cossack squat. But when you step in and out of it like this, you're using the mobility in a very different way. And it's amazing for squatting. Very, very good. Oh, sorry, regressions. We'll go back into the studio in a sec so that Yanni and Phil can say something. So regressions, the first regression is that you'll just come up higher. So from here, you'll stand up like that. So as I step to the side, I come up, and then I'll step to the side like this and go as low as I can, then rotate and sink down. Come up as I step to the side here, rotate, sink down. That's the first regression. What were you going to say, Phil?
I really like with what Rad's doing there, and it's so important for when you're starting out with all your lower body exercise, all your squatting movements, is the way that Rad's knee is tracking when he's going down into those squatting positions or down into that Cossack squat position. So what the tracking means basically is if I'm all loose through my hips and my knee's going to come in over my big toe, but if you're nice and active through your hip and the way Rad's doing it, his knee comes out more over the midfoot and out over the little toe. So it's just so important for knee health, and for anyone who's had long-standing knee pain and potentially arthritis, which again isn't a death sentence. You can certainly do so much when you have arthritis. It's just so important to get your knee loaded nicely. So when you're going into those regressions, those easier ones, really focus on getting that knee tracking nicely over your little toe, and then make sure when you progress and you go into deeper squats and those deeper movements that you keep that same kind of loading, okay?
Yeah, it's really important. So that's the first regression. So you're going, as Phil just pointed out, I'm always pushing this knee out, and then you just come from here and then rotate and sink down. And then the last regression is just really going to be just doing Cossack squats. If you're at the point where you can't even do what I did just then, because you can regress and progress, by going incrementally lower. I don't need to show all the different increments you can do, but as you get better, just going down another inch or two makes it a hell of a lot harder. So the next regression would just be doing it with a dowel rod and doing Cossack squats. So if I was just holding on to a dowel rod in front of me for support. And I love a dowel rod because it's not something that I can rely on. If I pull on this dowel rod, I'm going to fall back. But if I push it into the ground and keep it close to my body like this, then it absolutely helps me to get up and down. And it gives me just a little bit more stability than doing it without anything. And what you can do as a real regression is this foot, the toes can come off the ground, and this foot, the heel can come off the ground. So people that are really inflexible, you can do it like that and still get a really good stretch through the hips, okay? It's not doing as much good through the ankle. The ankle, it's much better if you can keep this foot on the ground, but you still get a really good stretch in the hips and in the adductors when I go down like this, okay? And that's those are your regressions. Let's go back into the studio so I'm not the only one talking. So, yeah, those two moves. So all we've really done there is demonstrated test the water and the ostrich walk. Hey, we've got a bunch of viewers here, guys. Can I just ask you, can you give us let us know what your name is and where you're watching from so we know who we've got here? And also hit the like button, please. It means so much to us if you can just give us that little comment and hit the like button. And also any questions that you have about anything that we've just done or anything to do with squat mobility at all or anything that we've posted recently, put them in the comment section. We love the love and we're here to answer your questions. So,
absolutely, especially if you're new to the channel. If you're new to the channel, then chime in, let us know, and make sure that you get your questions in. Now, quickly to dissect what they are, the 3 discussion points we want to talk about today, and I'm just repeating this so the boys know to stay on track, is why the loaded stretches are so beneficial, and we've spoken about that last week, but we're going to continue to beat that drum because we're passionate about it. How to get started or regress if you are a beginner, and we did talk about that, but that's probably a good thing for Phil to elaborate on a little bit, and how these stretches apply and benefit your squatting. So, first and foremost, very quickly on why loaded stretches are so beneficial. Now, we've spoken about this a lot. It is a hot topic here, and because rightly so, because it's, I believe, a great way to hack the physiology of your body and get the most out of your stretching sessions. When we do loaded flexibility, you're using eccentric and isometric contractions, which are proven to be probably more beneficial than just a sort of static stretch. They're both really, really good, but one of the key benefits to using eccentric and isometric loading during your stretches is that you're also increasing strength at the same time. So you're getting much more bang for your buck, and that's really what this series is going to be all about. It's about hacking efficiency and making sure that the time that you spend stretching is absolutely the best possible time that you're getting, the best bang for your buck for the time. Have you guys got anything that you'd like to add to that?
Yeah,
why loaded stretches are so beneficial, and dynamic stretches for warming up.
Yeah, I think what you went into just there about the different types of contractions there and building strength while you stretch is just so important, because when you think about your goals and what you want to achieve out of your training, it's usually something I guess fairly athletic, and you're going to be putting your body under a bit of a challenge when you're going into these harder movements. So if you don't have the strength there to be able to support your system while you're moving on to these harder progressions, then it's going to be much more likely to injure yourself. So
absolutely.
Being able to kind of get into this new range is like, I don't know, getting on a really fast motorbike, and if you haven't if you haven't got the brakes on there, then you might just hurt yourself.
Yeah, my only add to that would be that it's the biggest thing that people need to work on is understanding that it's not just about creating flexibility, it's about creating strength in your end range. And without the strength in the end range, you actually can get to a point where the more flexibility you create without strength, it actually can increase your risk of injury rather than decrease it.
I've had a client like that already this week, where getting into the splits and not being able to control that end range has led to a bit of pain. So.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, how to get started or regress if you're a beginner. Now, Rad went through a couple of good regressions there. It's better if it stays off, because the thing has to keep adjusting. Sorry, guys, we have a lighting issue here, technical issue. How to get started.
Strange for us.
First, that's right. Why never? If you're a beginner, this series is exactly why we're creating it. This is exactly why we're creating these 6-minute stretching series, because we want to remove as much barrier to entry as possible for flexibility training. And flexibility training, strength training without flexibility training, in our opinion, is it's just not as good. There's so much potential in your body, and when you remove the path of resistance in your movement, man, it's good for longevity, it's good for performance, and it just makes you feel better, when you can move like that. So we're really, really working hard to create this as a smaller commitment in time, and so that's the best thing. If you're a beginner, just latch onto these 6-minute routines, and that's a great platform to get you started. The regression concept is super important, and when we put together the end program, there is going to be full regressions and the tutorial, and Rad took you through a few of them there. So we're going to show you how to use your body weight and how to use loaded stretching and all that sort of thing, and that's super important. And Phil's spoken about this a lot in previous videos. One of the most important things to understand the concept of is your training age. Why don't you just quickly give them a 1 minute, 60-second explanation
I'll do my best.
Keep
it short. But basically, when you're getting into a new activity the first time, and say like gymnastics, the kind of movements that you do in this gym that is a bit different for people, if you've never done that before, it's really quite a different way of using your body. So for someone like Rad, however, he's been doing Kung Fu for 20-something years, and so his training age for this style of movement, so you could see when he was testing the water out there on the gym floor, he's moves really smoothly. He's been doing it for a long time, and his body's really well adapted. So when I say his body's adapted, his ligaments, his bones, his muscles are all adapted to be able to be in that range, support that range really nicely. And that's because of his long, consistent training age. So the training, it's not just when he first started, it's the fact that he's been consistently going at it for 25 odd years. Yeah. So if you are just getting into this, then the ligaments they take up to sort of 3 to 6 months to start adapting. Your bones kind of adapting over a period of about 7 years, I think, and your muscles take like 6 weeks to start adapting. So if you just get into a movement, a new style of loading, a new activity for the first time, you've got to realize that you're not going to be able to progress quite as quickly as maybe you see people doing it on the internet. So just take these regressions, and it's such a good place to start, and then build up slowly.
Yeah, beautiful. Awesome. Okay, how these stretches apply to and benefit your squat. Let's go, Rad.
So there's a couple of things. Because it's loaded stretching, it's really, really good. The first one, the ostrich walk, you'd call more dynamic stretching, but it is still a form of loaded stretching because it's actually a very fast eccentric contraction that goes on in my leg when I go down into the bottom range of motion. And it's, but especially in the test the water, it's all, my body weight is in my legs. I'm taking myself to full range of motion in the Cossack squat and in the squat as I go down. And it's going to dramatically, because of everything that we said, why loaded stretching is so good, that's going to dramatically help the squat. But these movements in particular are chosen to help the squat because a part of the squat is a big roadblock for people is the hamstrings and to a lesser degree the adductors, but they are still where if those two muscle groups are tight, then you're going to get a restriction in your squat, and these two movements are just phenomenal for it. And then the other big one is what I said before about vasoconstriction. Practicing I've never seen other, that's not to say they don't exist, but actually maybe yoga does this a little bit, but Kung Fu, the way that these are movements have come from Kung Fu, the way that you get vasoconstriction whilst you're practicing, and then what that means is that once you stop, you get vasodilation. It increases your body's circulation into the legs, and increased circulation means increased flexibility.
Okay, let's quickly, now tomorrow we're going to be working on hip stretches, hip flexors, and going into a little bit of glute stuff, and then we're going to build on that on Thursday and bring it in for landing on Friday. But before we wrap this up today, we want to quickly talk about, I guess, I'll quickly add the key insight of today's show. The thing I want you guys to take home is if you're a beginner and you're just dipping your toe into the flexibility training pond, efficiency is everything.
Testing the water, if you will.
Yeah, testing the water, if you will. Yep. Nice one. Efficiency is everything, guys, because you're trying to build a new healthy daily habit of flexibility training, and you don't want to, try and leap to the top of the mountain first. It's building on what Phil was talking about before about understanding your training age, understanding where you're at right now, and the short, efficient routine will be ideal for you. Yeah. Now, the biggest mistake people make, which we wanted to tip on in this show, which we feel is quite important, is the concept of knee tracking and making sure that when you load your knee, which a lot of these movements are going to do, it's very, very important that you understand where your knee should be and how it should align. So just very quickly, let's tip on that, and then we're going to dive into some questions. Hello to Simon and Karina. We've seen you there. Thanks for letting us know who you are and where you are, and we'll dive into your questions in a sec, plus some. Let's go. Yeah. Biggest mistake, knee tracking.
Yeah, so I think just it's so common when people get into squatting, they're like, oh no, I've been told that I can't squat because, I've got bad knees and I've got arthritis, and that means I can't, use my knees. It's bone on bone, all of that. It's just such a unfortunate thing that's so common in society, because bending your knees is such a healthy thing to do, and with loading your knees is so important for ongoing knee health. So as I was saying, your body adapts to what you spend your time doing, and your ligaments and your muscles around it will get stronger if you do it more often. So if you then get scared of bending your knees and scared of going down into those ranges, then your body's going to take resources away from there, and then it is actually going to be more bone on bone than before.
Yeah.
Not to say that's going to cause just please start using loading your knees,
yeah.
and teach them with your by practicing it over and over again, your mind gets better at controlling it when you're not thinking about it. So when you're starting out in your first progressions, really focus on that, getting your knees to track over your over your little toe, not to the absolute extreme, but sort of more over your mid to little toe. Yeah. So on the outside, not over your big toe.
Yeah.
So.
And if you are a beginner and you're feeling nervous about diving into these, then shoot us some questions. We're more than happy to help you out and find what your ideal starting point is. I can get Phil to chime in if anyone asks a comment that is better answered by him. So yeah, let's dive into it. Now, very quickly, Simon from Sydney, off to a meeting. Nice work, guys. Test the water. Ouch. We'll watch the rest later. Cool, brother. Karina McCormack, hi, man. To build up my strength in the test the water, I'm adding weight to the repeated Cossack squats, starting holding a 3 kilogram, now 4 kilogram I've good flexibility and strength, but want to increase strength. That's absolutely how I would recommend doing it. We do loaded Cossack squats a lot. I do them with a lot of my clients, even 55-year-old guys, and they've worked really, really well. Now,
I wouldn't.
No?
I wouldn't do that. No.
Really?
It's an endurance exercise that you're trying to get better at, and by increasing weight, what you want to be looking at more is increasing reps with Cossack squats rather than increasing weight.
I think it's all about your goals. Like if if she's maybe identified that the strength is where she's lacking and building up maybe even muscle size, then if that's your goal, then then add weight. But if it's I guess going into if you're looking at, I guess, a lot of what Rad's doing is about more of the endurance, then that's like time under tension, more reps,
but
more
there's
time.
there's crossovers.
Yeah.
Of course there is. Yeah, of course there is.
Strength in the
Of course
Cossack
there is.
squat doing higher rep. I would just stick to doing 15 to 20 reps, Karina. So no matter what load you
On
hold,
each leg.
on each leg, no matter what load you hold, make sure that you stay in that high rep range.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. All right, let's rip through these questions and comments that have come through. We got some shout outs here. Deepak has said cool to the how to fix your scapular winging. Thank you, brother. If you catch this video. Dana Brown, great workout. Just went through it for the first time. This was on our home workout without equipment demonstration, and feeling a really good burn from it. Really liked the background from Phil on the muscle interaction. I sit at a desk all day, so very relevant for me. Keep up the great work. Watching from Calgary, Alberta. Thank you very much, man. We really appreciate that, and it's good to get some feedback on having Phil here too, because we don't want to go too sciencey on your butts, but we also want to educate and make sure that you guys get value if you give us your time. Really impressed with this video. This is from Derek. I'm definitely going to implement this into my gym and martial arts Silat sessions. Silat, yeah. That's the 10-minute lower body warm-up. That's awesome, brother. I hope that you can add value to your tribe using some of those movements. That's why we created all of this, And you've also commented flexibility training for hip flexors, loaded stretch demonstration. Another excellent, well-explained video. Keep it up, from Derek again. Thank you very much for the love and support, my man. Hello from the north of Germany. This is DVDL. I am struggling to optimize my daily routine to fix my shoulder girdle protraction. That's shoulders sitting forward. For anyone who doesn't know, I am already doing a lot of effective thoracic spine mobilization, which is fantastic, but looking for advanced pec minor and levator scapular stretches. Any ideas? Thanks for sharing so much high quality content always. Thank you very much, brother. Now, we are big fans of pec release using like myofascial release, massage, self-massage, trigger point. There is nothing that beats lying on the table and getting Phil to release the pecs. He does it to me on a weekly basis, and it is phenomenal. I don't know. Like, do you want to add to that? Like, how would you?
I think it's the most common thing I treat. Like, it's just modern society has really set us up to be shoulders forward, neck down, and it really is so beneficial to be able to try and undo that. And I think massage does play a role in it, and it's really nice if you can get it. But stretches can be really effective too. But yeah, think about it like I keep talking about each body part being a system, and your shoulder is quite a complex system. But when you have muscles that are tight at the front, you can either release them to let them go back, or you can also strengthen the muscle at the back. So the body weight strengthening exercises that you guys without equipment with the water bottles, if you don't have anything, you can even be doing that, and that will help strengthen those muscles that keep your shoulders back and down. But you can also complement that with some stretching, and I think my favorite one is the doorway stretch. So if the doorway is coming up here, getting your arm up against the door 90 degrees, turning away, and you should feel a nice stretch across the front there. That's more pec major. And then if you get your elbow up to about eye level, so the elbow crease at eye level, and coming forward, that's going to give you a nice stretch in a slightly different line and really help just tip your shoulder blade back and down. Yeah, and it's hard to go past just body weight hanging, active and passive hanging, for a really good shoulder and pec release as well. Okay, my upper traps are insanely overdeveloped and hyperactive and really make it hard to mentally connect to my shoulder blades. Is there any way to make them relax a bit? Now, this is from Brent Prods in response to the best scapular stabilization exercises.
The long and the short, from my opinion, Brent, is, and I'll let the boys chime in on this one too, because it's a great question. When you've got really overactive upper traps, and it's very common, it's because of everything that Phil's just said, and then we go into the gym, and when we start to work, especially bilateral movements, without reinforcing the neural pathways to that the lower and mid trapezius, we just reinforce that dominance in the upper trapezius, and the problem exacerbates. Time is your best friend and your ally in this, and repetitions. Like, you have to remember, Phil had a great analogy. I can't remember what it is. It's something to do with the water pressure. You're building neural pathways to those lower trapezius, and it's going to be small, delicate movements that reinforce it. The workout that we did the other day, that express workout with no equipment, some of those drills in there are going to be perfect for you. You know,
yeah, the analogy, just for those playing at home, was basically, it's about neuroplasticity and how your brain adapts to doing things that you want to learn. Basically, if you think about keeping your shoulders back and down, tapping into those muscles that keep your shoulder controlled. If you haven't been using them very often, then think of it like a creek with only a small trickle of water going down, and that's kind of representative of how much brain activity you're sending to that area. Now, if you practice those movements and you can and you do it frequently, and you do it with building up intensity, then that's going to, unleash the dam and start to get a good flow of water down there, and then you're reinforcing and making that sort of whole river a whole lot bigger, and therefore easier to access. So that's the little analogy there. But I think it's a really useful way to think about training any new skill and any new activity. If you've just got to start to frequency.
You just got to bank reps. You just got to bank reps. You got to get your.
That's what I really like about this these 6-minute programs, is that the best exercise you can do is one that you'll do consistently. So the fact that you can get in, tick this off, then you can even do 10 of these, 10 different programs, and that would only be an hour, and you can get a lot done. So
absolutely. All right, that's about all we've got time for today. We've got to sort of bring this in for a landing. We did have a bunch more questions and shout outs to do, but we'll get through them tomorrow. Guys, tomorrow we're going to continue on this this epic series, and we're going to really unpack this whole squat routine over the week. So tune in tomorrow. That's pretty much it, guys. Thank you for joining us. For everyone, smash up the likes if you got some value out of this. Remember, if you do want to dip your toe into the Unity Gym and UMS pond or ecosphere, download our free flexibility blueprint. If you're ready to take a bigger dive, get your hands on a free month of online training and join our inner circle. Until tomorrow, see you then.
See you later, everyone.
Health is about performance, not just body image.
You better be willing to accept what you're going to have to do to get there.
We'll start focusing on movement goals, strength goals, flexibility goals.
When you nail that skill, that's there forever.
The body image goal doesn't get you that
It's
far.
the consistency and frequency that's going to get you there. It's not the intensity.
There's no shortcuts to mastery and movement. Destination doesn't change overnight, but your direction will.
The gym is not the place to beat up the body that you hate. It's the place to build the body that you love.
We are the gym that teaches people how to move instead of just exercise, because we believe that health is about performance, not just body image.